One way you could describe using tarot is like mining the universe. And what better way to demonstrate how the mining can work is to do another tarot in a movie. And as you can see behind me, the movie tonight that I'm taking my kids to see is the Minecraft movie. So this is actually probably going to be a really fun one because I truly like I'm familiar with the game, but I don't know a lot about the movie itself. I know Jack Black's in it and probably some other A-list names, but beyond that, I have no idea about the storyline or what's going to happen. So instead of watching the trailer, I'm going to do a much longer process just purely to demonstrate how you can use tarot to help show you things. It's a great way to see how stories can play out through images. So today I actually didn't have any pixelated decks, but my daughter does. So I borrowed her 8-bit fantasy tarot deck. That's what we're going to use today. So the way this works, you can do it with any deck that you have and any movie or story that you have. The idea is that you want to think about it, ask, what's this movie about? What information do I need to know about this particular story? And then you put out a blob type of spread, and I'll show you in a sec. And you just have a little fun with it. This is a really great learning tool because it's easily verifiable. Like, the story is the story, the facts are the facts. Everyone can see how it kind of comes out. So yeah, let's get going. What occurred to me as I'm shuffling is that, and you might have seen it, I spread them all out and then mix them up first. One, I don't think this deck has been used very much, so the cards were still pretty much in order, and I really had to get them out of order in order for them to do their thing. The other thing was that we use our square, and I don't think I've ever actually used a square deck before. I've used a circular deck, and that's wild. But this one, orientation, there will be no purely upright or reversed. We're going to have the potential for all directions. That's pretty cool. Anyway, without further blathering on, let's do this. Okay, 7 of Wands. I don't know if I'm going to call this reversed or not. I'm actually not going to call it anything at all. I'm just going to cast. 8 of Wands, 9 of Wands. I'm going to do 21 card spread. It's a blob spread's really good for stories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1, 2, 3. Center card. Ace of Pentacles. Oh my gosh, that's I can already tell this is really going to be a lot of fun. I'm just not sure how I'm going to treat the cards that are this way. Should I consider them reversed or some variation, or maybe they switch? I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it. That's never a good thing when you're reading tarot. You shouldn't really overthink it if you can, but we're all guilty of it. And then from the bottom of the deck, I'm just going to pull an extra bonus card. Knight of Swords, clearly in reversal. Okay. So when you do this, it's hard to do when you're filming as well, because obviously I cannot do two things at once. So I'm going to hit pause here, but when you're doing this on your own, you want to sit with this, you want to absorb it, don't get your resources out yet, you just want to feel what comes off of these cards, like almost like vapors in a way. That's how I perceive it. So yeah, sit with your cards and then start getting some first impressions. And for this, get yourself a little notepad, jot things down, thoughts, feelings, whatever, and then what we will do next is once you've figured out how you feel about it, I'll come back in a minute and I'll give my first impressions after I kind of meditated on a bit. After that, we'll go watch the movie, and I'll do that in a couple hours. But for now, we'll pause for a sec, and then I'll come back with those initial thoughts. Okay, I spent about 5 minutes sitting with the cards, not looking at any resources that I have to make sure I'm right or not, none of that. The purpose of this is to sharpen your ability to pick up energy off the cards. So if this is an area that you perhaps have a little difficulty with, this is a good thing to do to help build that, right? Like if you have a weak muscle, you work on it to make it stronger. This is my personal weak point. I have a hard time picking up everything all the time. Usually it comes after the fact or after I've looked at a book or something. But anyway, here are some notes that I made about the spread. So one thing that you can do off the top to help give you a starting point for your, like, what's coming off there, is to get a feel for how many majors you have. We have 5 majors. We've got the High Priestess, the Moon, the Empress, the Hermit, and Strength over here. You can also do a suit check. So you will want to see if there is a larger proportion of a particular suit, or if they're balanced. Usually I also do a check of reversals, but that makes absolutely no sense here, so we're going to skip that part. So what we can tell, we have 3 pentacles, and I don't count the court cards as that, but you can if you want. I'm not the boss of you. There's 3 swords cards, and then we have 2 cups, so it's definitely not a tearjerker movie, I'm getting the sense. There might be a little bit of that near the end. We have some swords, so it's not an intellectually draining movie. It's not straight up, like, we have a prevalence of wands, so that tells us we're looking at like an action-y type thing. And for a kids movie, that makes a lot of sense. So some other things I was getting off, and we'll go into this analysis a little bit later. Maybe I'll put it up on the screen too so that you can see all of the cards, but got the 7 of Wands here in a pseudo reversed position next to the 8 of Wands. So I'm getting that putting things in order, doing things methodically. Alignment seems to be a thing. And what I briefly played Minecraft a few years ago because my son was super obsessed with it. And it really does, like, it is a structured type of game. Like, there's no ability to do things that don't butt up against another thing. Like, everything is cubic. Like, that's the point. So that alignment is really coming through here. I'm definitely getting some blind heroism. Something like this 5 of Wands here, 10 of Wands, semi-reversed. That like Knight of Swords for me always does that. That 7 of Wands can sometimes be kind of like, ooh, caught off guard. Like, there's that really impulsive feeling. We've got emergence, so things buried that are coming up. For me, Ace of Pentacles is always the buried treasure card. Not always, it's one of many, many meanings. But in this context, that's how I'm absolutely reading it. And we've got quests, we've got getting some heist energy. Like, this will involve some kind of baddie, like some kind of villain. This is the Empress over here, and she doesn't feel nice in this respect, but I could be totally wrong. We're going to find out soon. I'm being very vulnerable here because I could be absolutely wrong in this first assessment. But there is also a feeling of like consumption or decay, and I know that's really dark in this context. But that's what I'm talking about when I mean you have to pick up the energy, because things will pop into your mind, and that's what you need to grab onto, because those might not be your thoughts. That is insight, and it can be like a little ghost, like a little wisp. And that's what you need to kind of grab. Usually you validate that or you verify that later by watching the movie, or when you're with someone by hearing their story, seeing how it lines up for them. So that's my first thoughts. I'm gonna stand by those for now, and then in a couple hours I'm gonna go watch the movie, and then I'm gonna come back and show you if I was right, wrong, or some other thing popped out. And this is always a really fun exercise, because it just shows you the power of tarot, and it shows you the power of yourself. So I will see you soon. So we just got back from the movie, and now that I've had a chance to think about it some more, I made some notes. It was actually a pretty good show. This really isn't like my fandom, but I swear I've never seen so many teenage boys just having a wonderful time going back to, something that they loved as younger versions of themselves. And there were certain lines that came on at different points, and the entire theater broke out in unison and knew the words. It was like that kind of energy. It's just fantastic. So overall, a great experience, even if it wasn't like an area of particular interest to me. What is very interesting is how this all played out once I figured out what the movie was about, what the plot was, etc. So this is a quick heads up. Obviously, there are going to be some spoilers. So if you actually care about not having things spoiled, you might want to wait. Anyway, I'm going to go through some of my notes here. So, what I overlooked earlier is that the 7 of Wands, 8 of Wands, and 9 of Wands in that sequence. It's actually really interesting because I don't think I've ever had a spread where this has come together. And it has a little significance. So that whole wands and fire is a pretty important aspect in the movie. In fact, all of the elements are kind of a key feature. It's all like it's foundational existence building blocks, if you think about it philosophically. So like most movies, when you have a lot of chaos, when you have a lot of different plot points, different characters, point of views, a lot of times what drives a movie forward is those characters being put in situations where they have to figure out what to do now. So 7 of Wands is about that starting point. So Steve is the main character. He gave up his childhood dream, and then when he became an adult, he went and claimed it. So Minecraft is ultimately about a player's desire and ability to create. The 8 of Wands shows us the power of pure, uncluttered thinking that lets us get things done. The typical player base for this game includes children, and children, when faced with a problem or a challenge or a quest, they don't hesitate and analyze the way adults do. They don't fuss over who does what, who the leader is. They just start doing something. If it fails, they do something different. And this mindset is why they easily surpass a group of adults faced with a common team building challenge, such as the one with spaghetti and marshmallows. That energy flows nicely into the 9 of Wands. Steve learned the hard way that when night comes and the zombies and skeletons start roaming around, exposure is dangerous. He learned to build defenses. This card is courage in application, in doing. Our center card is also very powerful as an indicator. As I said before the show, this card shows me buried treasure, gifts from the earth. Whatever the Minecraft world runs on, it's a divine power on its own. Like an earth crystal plays an important role in the plot. So that's crystal clear now. Further, this portal in the card, it's a gateway between the different worlds that the characters, have to go through. And that's, not unlike Stargate for those of us who are of that vintage. We could do ours a breakdown here, but the key things to do once you firstly blow your own mind by how amazing this seemingly unserious practice is to see how your initial thoughts played out. So I'm going to bring back my notes from before. So I made a few things, just made a few notes here, so I'm just going to quickly run through those. And this is part of the process. So if you do this on your own, this is really where the rubber meets the road for you. This is how you find out what you're getting, if it's good. It'll help you identify your blind spots. So I wrote, putting things in order, doing things methodically. That's pretty vague. So that's not as specific as I'd like it to be. So I will work on that, becoming more specific. Light is a factor. That one didn't turn out to be... Oh wait, actually, yeah, it did matter, because when nighttime comes, the world becomes suddenly unsafe. Okay, that is a factor. Still, like, at the time, and that's the other thing too, when you're reading tarot, sometimes things you think of or things that pop into your brain at some point don't make sense at the time. This is why sometimes people leave your table and they're like, that person's nuts. But then, later on that day, later on in the week, something comes back and goes, oh my gosh, that was it. Anyway. Blind heroism, yes, that was true. Impulsive energy, oh my gosh, 9,000. Emergence, so coming out of places, like coming out of portals, that was a thing. Splitting up, dividing power in order to do something faster. This was unintentional, but it still happened. Using swords, yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that was, you know, you had to make these swords and they were made of like different materials. It was a whole thing. And then I had a baddie. So that turned out to actually not be the Empress as I thought. It was actually the Queen of Cups in reversal, which easily, yeah, that was a silly mistake, but one that I understand why I did. Anyway, there is a baddie. She's, again, spoilers, she's like a witch, kind of, or like sorceress, and she kind of wants to get this special crystal so that she can take over the overworld, which is, you know, where everything's nice and there's like sheep and chickens and peaceful villagers. So she wants to turn it into the darkness, and you know, that's, I think, where I got the path of decay. Once those baddies come into the overworld, they start to decay, like they start to zombify, unless they have a magic potion, which I think could have been spoken to here. Again, I'm not going to spend hours breaking this whole thing down, but you can easily kind of see how all of these pieces fit together, and it's really quite incredible. Yeah, so all in all, pretty satisfying experience in terms of the cast and how it spoke to me in the beginning. I did get the high points. Next time I will probably try to spend more time seeing what I can pull out before I go to the movie part. And that's what makes you a better reader. That's what makes it possible for you to help show the person that you're reading for that you can see what's happening and that you can work through to get to really the ultimate goal of any reading, which is to solve a problem and mine the universe for answers. So there we have it. I hope you had a good time with me. I had a great time. I have more videos coming out on different topics, but every so often I'll throw in one of these movie ones just to show you how fun it can be to use tarot to describe a story.